we're constantly in these confines of how do I make sure everything around me feels okay so I can finally feel okay? And when we can realize that we don't need everything to be okay or exactly how we want it, then we're free.
Yes.
And so that's a huge piece of
You're like, so that's what I do.
Just casual.
Just cash.
You know, and some texting tips here and there.
Just a little Scorpio energy. Just like, that's that. Hello, my love. Thank you so much for tuning into the podcast here on YouTube. I am going to ask you to take just a moment before enjoying this episode and go and hit the subscribe button. It not only helps the show, but it helps the channel. And I only want to continue to bring you incredible content and beautiful video content here on the YouTube. So just take a moment before enjoying the episode and hit subscribe. Thank you. My angels, you are in for such a gorgeous treat today. I have my beautiful friend and someone that I am also fortunate enough to call a client, Emily Freeman, on the pod. I feel like in the space of dating and relationships, this has been one of my deepest soul growth areas in this lifetime. And something that Emily and I reflected on in this episode is really how the work is always worth it, that the tactics or the highly left brain stuff that we can do when it comes to keeping ourselves safe in dating and relationships, it does not shine a candle to when you feel safe in your receiving and your ability to really call in a relationship that you want. This is something I feel so in process of, and I feel so fortunate that someone like Emily came into my life, and I've gotten to learn so much about myself through getting to mentor her and having her as a friend. We went on like a 2-hour walk recently, and she just had the most unbelievably deep questions. And when we were done with the walk, I was like, I feel like a new person, and I'm going to have such a new perspective that is not so much rooted in my programming or my fears around my past experiences, but really gives this fresh, heart-led, soul-led perspective around healthy dating. And really, one of my desires is to have a healthy partnership in this lifetime. You are going to receive so much from Emily in this episode. And this might be one of those episodes where you grab a notebook and you take notes, because that is just the transmissions that Emily brings through for us. So I love you, my darlings. I'm so excited to bring you an episode like this. I don't think I've ever brought you a guest like this in the history of Envy the Pod. So you are in for a treat. I love you, and I hope that you enjoy. Emily Freeman, welcome to Envy the Pod.
Thank you. I'm so excited to be here.
I'm so happy that you're here. Okay, so first and foremost, you are a newer angel in my life, and you just have the kind of heart where I was like, oh, I'm in. Like, my Capricorn rising can be I never really realized this about myself, but it can actually take me a bit of time to feel safe with people, especially women. And from the jump, you just have a presence and a kindness and an integrity that just made me feel so safe with you. I've had the privilege of being your mentor and also now your friend. And I feel so privileged, and I think I've shared this with you recently, to get to mentor like a woman of your caliber with the work that you're doing. Like, I'm such a fan, and I'm just so excited to share you with my women and my community, because I just know that they're going to gain so much. And I also think it's just it was such a God shot for you to come into my life when you did, because I'm not dating, and it's just so, at least at the moment, and I am learning so much from you. And it's so fun to get to be on both sides, where I get to witness myself and my growth from just receiving your transmissions and seeing you in your expertise, while also getting to also guide you and support you and help you with your systems and just proliferating your mission in the world. So thank you, you and Mike for making the journey up here today. And I'm just so excited for this conversation.
Oh my gosh, thank you. I feel like you just described how I feel about you. so perfect, because everything is us pushed out.
Literally.
And so it really feels like such a reflection when you say that. So thank you. That means a lot.
And how did I not talk about how we're Aries and Libra? I'm an Aries, as all my girls are like, duh, we know that. You've told us a million times at this point. So Emily is a Libra.
Had a Libra on the couch today.
And also she walked in like last minute, I knew I wanted to wear the burgundy, the wine color, but I last minute did the brown and the brown boots. And then you walk in, I meet you in the lobby, and we are wearing like mirrored colors. So if you're on the YouTube, you can see it. But how wild is that?
I love it. My Libra heart is so happy right now. I'm like, it's all coordinated beautifully.
That was literally like perfect. And we love our aesthetics, we are just detail queens.
Yes.
Emily, how did your journey, how did you step into your calling with the work that you do?
It's a lifelong story. I'm a Libra after all.
I was going to say, it's just so Libra. You can't make it up.
I mean, I was obsessed with romantic love the moment that I understood that there was boys. So I had a boyfriend in preschool. His name was Eric. Always shout him out. I don't know if maybe he'll hear this one day. And, this desire to experience love and romantic love really led me into partnerships that taught me a lot at a very young age. I experienced a lot of the feeling of connection, the feeling of openness, and then also a lot of heartbreak very early on. And because it felt like my soul's mission to have a partner, unaware of all the healing and growth that was meant to come from that, I was willing to do almost anything for it. And so, of course, that led me down paths really of abandoning myself and abandoning my own truth in order to try to create that. And it was through those lessons that ultimately I started seeing patterns. And I found myself late 20s after 2 back-to-back long-term relationships ended. The first one was 5.5 years, the man I thought I was going to end up with. And at the end of our relationship, he started abusing alcohol. And my whole world kind of got flipped on its head. And being the persistent person that I am, I kind of dusted myself off and went, well, I know what I want, so I'm going to get back out there. And 3 months later, I found myself in a new relationship with somebody who wasn't right for me, but I felt like was going to bring me the safety that I was looking for. And what I found in that relationship was that I really felt unsafe within myself. And so when that one ended, I had convinced myself it would be just as easy to find somebody else. Here I am, late 20s, living in the Bay Area. Dating apps are now widespread, and I felt like I was a kid in a candy shop. My Cancer moon was like, you can just be in bed in your jammies and be like window shopping. This is so easy, and God universe had a very different plan for me, and it wasn't easy. And I kept finding myself, meeting somebody, it going well for a couple of dates, and then it disintegrating, whether it be his decision or my decision, or even a couple of months and it not be right. And so my introspective nature, which I've always had, immediately went, okay, how do I solve this? What's going on here? That's my Aquarius rising, I'm assuming.
And also all your Scorpio.
Yeah.
You're like Libra, but you're like a Scorpio Libra because all the 8th house.
Yes. And I was so terrified of that part of myself for so long. I call it like looking under the covers. How much of the time are we all avoiding looking at something because we're scared that we'll never be able to go back? Yeah, I was really afraid of that part of myself for a long time. And I call it looking under the covers, where there's something that we know is there that needs to be observed, but it feels really daunting or scary. And I avoided it for a very long time, and it caused me a lot of pain. And I, in that moment, was still trying to find safety outside of myself in a relationship. And so I was quickly shown that there were a number of reasons why it wasn't working out. And the first was when I came across attachment theory and my mind was just blown. All of a sudden, everything that felt so illogical in my dating life immediately felt logical. And then I started to dive more into understanding attraction. And of course, I went for the texting tips, which did not work. And then eventually found myself looking at polarity and understanding the masculine and the feminine. And that clicked more for me in understanding, oh, wow, maybe there's something within me that I'm disconnected from. And maybe that's where I need to start. And this all transpired to a place where I had a roommate at the time and she had sworn off men after a breakup. And I remember I was just like speaking into her, like, no, this is how beautiful it can be. Like, this is, coming just straight from that Libra heart of this idealism of partnership. And sure enough, a few months later, she met somebody the first time she ever went on a Bumble date, and they're happily married with a baby now. And it was only a few months later when she met him that they moved in together. And I remember thinking, I thought I was manifesting that for myself. How did this happen? But it was the first little indicator that there was something there. And then I ended up hiring a coach for myself, because here I was helping everyone around me, and yet I wasn't able to change my circumstance. And so she ultimately not only helped me recognize deeper parts of myself that I hadn't seen yet and hold that safe space for me to explore it, she was also the person that said, you need to do this too.
Wow.
And I was like, I do? Are you sure? And it immediately made sense. And she had been a clinical therapist for 15 plus years. And so she really took me under her wing, and I was able to apply what I already knew in my heart and my wisdom and all of my knowledge just from experience and being that introspective type person, and now have more practical application.
Talk to me a little bit about attachment theory. So I remember recently you and Mike told me about the book Attached. I've moved and done all the things. I haven't got to listen to it yet.
That's okay.
But I will say that just through my own experience, going through the divorce, stepping back out, dating for a moment, really getting to see my own attachment wounds, and then the kind of consistent patterning that I would like attract in men. For anyone who I know this isn't a massive focus of your incredible breadth of work, but I do think it's like a really cool piece to understand. For anyone in my community who's like, what is attachment theory?
Yeah.
Can you just give us a little rundown on what it is?
Absolutely. And it is an important part of what I do, because it really is another way of describing subconscious patterns that we see in dating. And it allows us to actually kind of see ahead. How is this going to play out? If I stay in this pattern of my attachment style, well, this is how it's going to play out. Or if I go more toward a secure attachment style, which I'll explain all of them in a second, this is how it could play out. But jumping from one to the other can be rather tricky, because ultimately our attachment style is really just protective mechanisms that we've put in place to try to keep ourselves safe. And our body, our minds, our subconscious is so set that this is the only way to stay safe. And unfortunately, it might be keeping people at a distance, but it's also keeping people at a distance. So we're not actually getting what we desire. And so when we're looking at attachment theory, there are 4 main attachment styles. The first one is anxious, which is a subconscious fear of abandonment. The second one is avoidant, which it has a subconscious fear of intimacy. And then there's fearful avoidant, also called anxious avoidant or disorganized, which has a subconscious fear of rejection. And then you have your secure attachers, who are comfortable in intimacy, comfortable experiencing that connection.
Wow. Okay, quick thing. And you guys, we're going to have so much fun today, because I did ask Emily if she would coach me, because she is a magi with her mentoring. Like, I've had the privilege of witnessing it a few times, and I'm just like, even just recently with your high performance polarity, and I got the replay, I literally was like watching you mentor these men, and I was like, how does she even think of that? Like, I couldn't even that's just like the beauty of this expertise that you have, babe. And just like the deeper intentionality of how you coach. So I get to experience that today, and it's going to be vulnerable for me, and my armpits are sweating about it, but it's going to be great. But I did notice I had like a 5th date with someone, and I've told you all about this thing from last year. And I realized, and this again, with my very limited understanding of the attachment stuff, I realized that I always thought that other people were like the avoidance, but then I actually had to look at, oh, actually, I think what you said, the disorganized, I can be. I don't know if I am now because, it's a year later, maybe I'm doing better. But honestly, I really did get to witness that in myself of, instead of projecting it outward, that like other people had the avoidance, I got to actually look and be like, actually, I have the fear of rejection and abandonment and intimacy. And I was so surprised. I was shooketh by myself. I was like, wait a second. No, I've worked on myself and I'm so integrated and my heart is open, and no, like not really actually in this area. And so that's going to be fun to have you coach me on that in our time together. But like, what would you say to a woman who maybe even can like spiritually bypass in dating, or maybe like a fear of, whether depending on their sexual orientation, but just like maybe has a fear of just like moving into intimacy or being really met or really seen? Because sometimes I realize I'm actually not afraid of not getting what I want. I'm more afraid of getting what I want. That's definitely come up for me, like the fear of loss, like loss aversion.
Is the fear for you actually getting what you want and losing it?
Yes,
okay.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Or being rejected by what it is that I want is like definitely something I've noticed in my patterns.
I see this a lot with high performing women, and it's because we're so smart.
We see the full breadth.
We're really smart, and we're also very emotionally intelligent. So we can easily talk ourselves into certain stories that tell ourselves like, well, it's them.
Yes.
Not me.
Yes.
And I live and breathe and eat by the principle that we are what we attract. So every time I'm with my husband and I see something in him that I'm like, that wasn't on my vision board. Like that wasn't my manifestation. I'm like, yeah, Emily, but do you see the mirror? Do you see the mirror? And I see this so often with high performers because, one, we don't want to be slowed down. So this idea that there could be something that creates a pause for us to go, hey, I actually need to slow down and connect right now and see what's coming up in him, what's coming up in me, right? We sometimes build our lives to be so fast paced, so we don't have to do that. And then we habitually don't do it, or it feels like an inconvenience.
Yes.
And the second reason is because a lot of us do have a subconscious belief that love is an achievement. It's something to be earned.
Emily, why do we always do this? Do you want to know what I psychically received when I was getting ready today? This is before another interview. I literally heard, love is not an achievement. Like getting to that thing, you don't need to look at it as this is an achievement or it means, because that's really what I think I did in my like relationship is like and the marriage and just like moving into it. I just think that that's what it was. And I don't want to interrupt, but you make me gasp because I feel like we do this a lot. I'm like, I literally had that, like, because psychic impressions are so different. And I know you get them all the freaking time, but it's like, I can't believe you just said that. Because I literally that truth just like dropped into my heart today. Yeah. So clearly.
I think that's beautiful. I love it. But that does a couple things to us, right? So one is we feel like we have to prove ourselves.
Yes.
We feel like we have to work at something or we have to perform in a certain way to get it. So that immediately, when we are with somebody that we're into and that we'd like to see it move forward with, we immediately stop acting in our hearts or from our truth and go into this performance mode, which doesn't allow him to connect with us or us to really connect with him. And it puts us in this position where we don't feel secure because even if we do get him, it feels like we have to keep up the act in order to keep him. I remember so vividly when I was back in those single early days of getting out of these relationships, going, Emily, just hold it together for the first 90 days. Like, just hold it together. Just hold it together and then he'll be in, right? It's like, we think that
Seriously,
way.
me too.
I can't be the only one.
No, me too, to the max.
And because we know that there are parts of us that are not this like pleasant photo picture perfect part of ourselves. As a Libra, I try to deny that every day, but it is the truth. And so, you know, it puts us in this position to be even more fearful of intimacy. And when we're looking at that fear of rejection, the actual pattern of it is, I'm going to reject you before you can reject me.
Yes.
And so we find all of the reasons of why we don't need that person or don't want that person in order to stay safe. And I see this frequently also with women who are very spiritually in tune, is it's really easy to see other people's patterns. It's not always so easy to see our own. And we sometimes confuse that patterning with intuition.
If you're a woman who makes money or wants to make more of it, but still feels overwhelmed, disconnected, or unsure how to actually lead your finances, I created Magical Women in Money just for you. MWMM is where money meets self-trust, strategy meets intuition, and women stop outsourcing their financial power. Inside, I teach you how to organize your finances, understand your faulty money habits, align your earning with your astrology, and build a real wealth for your future without shame, pressure, or feeling like you're behind. This is a personal finance meets astrology method that works. It's grounded, empowering money work for women that feels approachable and soulful. Join the waitlist for Magical Women in Money membership, MWMM. The link is in the show notes.
And we immediately go, okay, something doesn't feel right, which means I need to follow my gut and my heart. It's not right. I'm moving on. Or we're like, something doesn't feel right, but we're not quite sure how to navigate it. So we end up creating a scenario where it doesn't feel right to stay.
Yep.
Because our thoughts create our reality.
Wait, why are you reading me to filth right now?
Do I have a need to coach you, or should I just like, here's your
just the downloads. I'm just, do you see my mouth? I'm like, just.
There's no flies in the room, right?
No, there's no flies. Probably not. I mean, Emily, like, okay, please keep going. There's like, I have so much to say about this.
Yes. Well, I think that the main point is that when you're a high achieving woman, when you are very spiritually connected, when you understand how to connect with yourself in your single life, it can sometimes feel really disruptive to try to add in a partner, especially if you've experienced pain in your relationships in the past. So of course it feels more comfortable to be on your own. And of course, when there's little things that start to pop up and maybe activate you in some ways, you want to pull away because you don't want to relive that pain. Your subconscious, your nervous system is doing its job. It's like, no, we don't want that again.
Yes.
But sometimes it's misreading those signals. And that's just where that sense of ownership and responsibility and curiosity and equanimity, not actually judging ourselves, but just being an observer of it, can be such a beautiful experience when we aren't so fast to leave.
I feel like in the past, and that was really what I learned in my last relationship was, you know, like really sticking it out and really staying, because as an Aries, my old patterning, I would say, is just like the moment it's hard or the moment I feel inconvenienced, the moment I'm afraid, bolt. Like, and that's definitely been, I can only imagine, extremely hurtful. But it's hurtful for me too. It's like, meaning I'm hurting myself by doing that and not staying in the vulnerability. Something that keeps coming through that I want to ask you about is like, what's your perspective on the father wound? And like for, let's say, women who maybe have like the achievement, like love is synonymous with achievement. What are your thoughts around that?
Yeah, it's a lot of my story. And I have a very loving father and he's very invested in me in a lot of ways. So it's not that stereotypical, he, you know, abandoned me or, you know, wasn't there, but he did work a lot.
Yeah.
So at times he wasn't there, but my memories with him were they are very pleasant and very loving. And there's one memory that just has stuck with me my entire life and has come up through this work so clearly is I wanted my first Barbie doll. I was 3 years old and we were in the hot tub and he goes, well, if you can hold your breath and touch the bottom of the hot tub, you can get your first Barbie doll. And I'm like, oh,
your dad a Libra?
It's on.
Or sorry, he's a Leo.
He's a Leo.
Leo.
Yeah. Leo, Cap, Moon, and Gemini rising. And so, of course, I did it. Like, I want that Barbie doll. Yeah, I could do it. And I remember the look on his face after I did it. And he was just so proud and so happy and so celebratory and, you know, all of that affirmation. And just thinking about that 3-year-old version of me that got that from my father. And then at times where he would be stressed out about work and get more introverted or shut down or closed off and not getting that, then of course there's this feeling of like, oh, well, it can happen if I do the right thing.
Yes.
Or if I say the right thing, or I show him that I'm good enough in some way. And, you know, that stuck with me for a very long time. And of course, I didn't recognize it until later. But the father wound can show up in a couple of different ways for us, just depending on what our relationship was like with our father. It's interesting because the father wound, the womb, there's no womb in a father.
You know, we could really psychoanalyze that for a moment, but we'll carry on.
The father wound, of course, can affect our relationship with the masculine, right? Our masculine energy and masculine energy outside of ourselves and how we determine it's going to function and try to predict how it's going to function. What's very interesting though, is a lot of the times when women are meeting themselves in relationship and they're having a hard time experiencing that connection, it can also be very well linked to the mother wound. Because when we're disconnected from our feminine, because we didn't have that, you know, example for us, or we found that it was critical, or it just didn't feel safe, then we can get disconnected from our own feminine energy and also not understand how to not only meet, but actually see a man who's actually balanced in his masculine and his feminine energy.
Yes. Yes. Something that you brought forward in high performance polarity, which I was a part of the other week. And it's just crazy because, again, this is what you do with me. I literally had been journaling the night before on like something that had been on my mind and that I had kind of internally abandoned, because staying open and vulnerable for me in the past has just been a no. And I kind of go to that cool girl exterior LA, like especially dating here in my 20s, it was pretty intense. And I just feel like I built a lot of armor. But I was like, Natalia, you're 38 years old. You're doing really deep work on yourself. We don't need to go to that like go-to anymore. So I was journaling about my protector parts, and I don't remember exactly what I wrote, but then the next day I was listening to, I think it was maybe day 3 where we did the feminine, and you were talking about how when the feminine doesn't feel safe, it either will protect itself, or what was the other one?
So it'll either like outsource its safety.
Yes.
Or it'll protect itself.
Yes.
Yeah.
Talk to us a little bit about that, because I, for one, I've, especially being a student of the tarot, and which my tarot deck specifically talks about polarity. The whole thing is based on masculine, feminine, light, dark, active, receptive. Like it's just the yin yang, like the balance of all things in the universe and the integration. Talk to us a bit. Let's go into this for a minute, because I just think for me, what I really recognize is having a healthier relationship to my feminine, even though I'm not dating and I'm not involved with anyone, has been one of the deepest gifts of my entire life. But then bringing that energy into the vulnerable space of involving myself with someone else is like, feels intimidating to me. So talk to us a little bit about that. I mean, that concept of just like feminine safety and how that can show up maybe in dating and in partnership.
Yeah. I am curious what feels intimidating to you.
I think I am just so afraid to be disappointed. I'm really, really afraid to not choose properly. I've, the work I do in like 12-step, and we do a history of like our journey with relationships and our sexuality. And I just really had to recognize like my picker has been so off, and I've rushed really quickly. And it's a really tender spot for me because it's like, even though I'm kind of in this safe harbor right now, where like and the gift is that I feel so amazing with myself. But you've been calling me out in your content lately where you're just like, yeah, your aloneness is great, but just like, make sure you're not, and I'm like, oh, Emily, I'm just like, it's so important for me to remember. But it's just like, I think the intimidation is, can my healthy feminine stand up and feel safe in the space of my feelings being opened again? And can I trust myself? I think that was like the biggest thing. I think I sent you my journal. I was like, I literally wrote like, I don't trust myself in this area yet. And I underlined it because I was just like, I know I can, I trust that. But I think that's the intimidation, to simply answer your question. I just feel like it's like the lack of trust, and I haven't exercised discernment and really chosen myself. Self-abandonment, I think, has been a really big part of my dating history.
Yeah. And you're not alone in that. You're in good company here.
Okay, good. I'm not the only one. Perfect.
Definitely not the only one.
Don't wish that upon anyone.
No,
but yeah.
It's been a lot of my story as well, as I mentioned earlier. And, what's interesting, what I heard you say is trusting my feminine in that space. And a couple of things. One is, just because we allow ourselves to integrate into our feminine doesn't mean that our masculine has deserted us.
Yeah.
So that's where we can look at, okay, why do we feel like when we're in our feminine, the masculine isn't going to step up for us, both externally, and I might not choose the right partner. He might not be right for me. He might, not have my best interest in mind, and also internally. Like, oh, I'm going to lose that part of myself.
Yeah.
I can't have that part of myself. And I think this is what so many people are misunderstanding about the masculine and the feminine is when we're talking about polarity. If you are the feminine in dating and you're wanting to attract the masculine, that does not mean that your masculine is just poof gone and you can never be in it. And in fact, it wouldn't be healthy. And it also wouldn't allow you to be the woman that he would actually want in his life, right? He's like, I don't want to have to corral you at all periods of time. If especially we're talking about high performing, successful men, sure, of course, they want peace and they want that stability and that softness in their life that we can so beautifully bring as the feminine. But by no means do they want to be managing you. They don't have the time or energy. And how many of us as women go, well, aren't you supposed to be saving me? Like, I need you to make me feel safe. I need you to make me feel like I'm okay in this world. When in reality, that is still our responsibility. And our partners are just that reflected outside of ourselves.
Yes.
The level of safety that you can cultivate within is the level of safety that you're going to attract in a man.
Wow. Like not outsourcing that.
Exactly.
Wow.
And part of that, of course, is self-trust and forgiving ourselves for our choices in the past and really meeting that younger version of ourselves and like holding her hand and telling her it's okay and explaining to her the wisdom that we have now through all that experience. So that way she doesn't end up being the one across the dinner table from a man going, hold on, what about this and what about that? We're like, no, I got you. I'm here. I'm solid, I'm grounded, I'm balanced. So you can trust me as I move this forward.
Okay, can we talk about you and Mike, please?
Of course.
Some of my favorite stories. Can you talk to me? I know you mentioned this for a moment about how maybe we're trying to pick at something to like protect ourselves. Can you talk about that story?
Oh, you want me to talk about the barbed wire tattoo?
Yes, it's my fave.
Sorry, babe. It's his favorite too.
So good. It's so good.
Yeah, no, when Mike came into my life, I was in a very similar position that you just explained, like in the sense of I had done so much work on myself. Here I was helping people, and this man with this big energy, this Scorpio king, comes into my life. And it was like it brought up so much to the surface that was still kind of just percolating there. And it was the first time I met my own avoidance, because I had always historically dated men that were much more on the avoidance scale, and therefore my abandonment wounds, my rejection wounds were more at the surface. But that's the nuance of our attachment styles. Is I call them attachment tendencies, because they're so fluid.
Yes.
If you have an insecure attachment style, you can kind of flow between them depending on what activation that person is bringing up in you. And his presence and his certainty about me. Now, he never made any promises to me, right? He didn't show any of that like love bombing. It was very much this presence of just knowing every day he was going to be in communication with me, and he was so present with me and so interested. He did what he said he was going to do. And when that presence comes into your life, it can be a really big energy. Here I was living in San Diego, Little Italy, with like a 600 square foot apartment. And I remember the first time he came over, I was like, this isn't big enough. Like, there's a lot of energy in here. There's a lot of energy in here. But so much of the time when that presence comes into our life and it feels like we're finally going to get what we've actually been manifesting and desiring for so long, our subconscious will do whatever it can to go, no, we're going to stay in the fantasy of the search. I like this dopamine rush that I get every time it doesn't work.
Fantasy of the search. Can we brand that? TM?
Yes, I love it. I love it. Yes, the fantasy of the search. And, when that comes up, we start to notice little things in the person that we're with. And, I could have really dug in on the socks that he would sometimes leave on the floor. But what I really dug in on was the barbed wire tattoo that he got when he was 19, a Marine. And in my mind, I remember thinking, that's not on my vision board. Like, the barbed wire tattoo just doesn't feel like it fits, right? It's not like cohesive here. He didn't get the burgundy memo.
Oh my God, literally.
And it was the thing that I could fixate on to keep myself feeling safe. Because when I'm fixating on that, I'm not worried if he's going to leave or not. I'm fixated on my decision. Am I going to say, or am I going to go? Which feels more powerful, but it's really just as destabilizing. And so when that started to come up for me, I had to get really honest with myself. And one of the ways that I did that was I would just sit in silence, and I would listen to my mind, and it would be this chaotic chatter. What about this? What about this? What about that? What about this? What about that? And then I would come into my body, and it felt so still. And that's how I felt around him. It was only when he left that this mind chatter would come up.
Wow.
But as soon as I thought about his presence, I felt so secure. And so I knew that this was just programming. This was just fear. This was just protective mechanisms. And this was my truth.
Yes.
And that's the feminine, right? The feminine is the heart. And this chatter up here is actually wounded energy, right? It could be masculine, it could be feminine, depending on what we're processing. But it's the wounded energy where we're feeling like we have to protect ourselves.
Wow. It's just, I think that what you just spoke into is so unbelievably important and empowering, because I feel like for myself personally, just like the wounding and the fear and the this is a very tender part of my life for sure. It's definitely and I feel like you speak about this in your work. We're in high achiever land and business, there's a constant. It's I feel good here, you know what I mean? But the vulnerability, and also having a Venus in Pisces, it's just that vulnerability. It's there's more wild card energy there for me. And I love what you just said, how in the experience of getting to know Mike and being in that liminal space of dating, even though he was showing up so secure and so consistent with you, you really got to delineate the mind versus the body. And I feel I'm so excited to like have that experience of like, okay, where is my programming? And I even remember when we all had dinner and I was sharing with you one of my friends who's just like going through a moment. And I was like, what would you say to her? And you were like, well, if it's hysterical, it's historical. And I was like, you just like nail it so fast. Like it was just so beautiful, because I do think that in this zone of life for so many of us, it's just can be wrought with a lot of fear and a lot of programming, as you said. And so I even just think that that gift of like the delineation and the work. Okay, let's switch gears a little bit. And I want to hear about like your business. And obviously, like I mentioned, I have had the privilege of working with you. So tell us a little bit about your work, your business, your impact in terms of like being like a dating and relationships coach.
Yeah. Life's work.
Yes.
For sure. So we can start with what I do really on just a fundamental level is I really help people understand themselves better and build that secure relationship with themselves in order to have that with somebody else. So this can look like becoming more secure in the way that you are able to open your energy to even be an energetic match for the right person. Or it can be looking at why we're shutting down at a certain level of intimacy, or why we continue to put ourselves into relationships that we know aren't right for us, but are filling some sort of narrative that we have about what we should or shouldn't do. And, you know, you said it so beautifully, like it feels very tender for you. And it is a very tender part of our lives. It is one of the most intimate parts of our lives because our relationships show us so much truth.
If you're standing at the edge of a major life, money, or business transition, and you know the next chapter requires a different level of support, this may be your moment to work with me one-to-one. There are 2 ways to do that. The first is my year-long total life transformation mentorship, a deeply supported journey where we work on your money, your vitality, and your visibility so the growth you create is embodied and sustainable. The second is my signature one-to-one money and business mentoring, focused strategic support to help you stabilize, grow, and lead your finances and business with clarity and confidence. Both are for women who value refinement and are ready to build a life and business with intention, time spaciousness, and depth. If you feel the call to work with me one-to-one, the application is waiting for you in the show notes. Yeah, the mirror, like you said.
Yeah, and if you're the type of person who has been in these relationships that feel like such a strong mirror, it's because you're really being called forward. You're being called to look at that. Because it might be in order to experience partnership. Absolutely. That's like a huge bonus of it. But there is so much more to benefit from that experience of life, of just seeing where we're not free and allowing ourselves to be free. And so when we can actually meet ourselves in partnership, that is true liberation because we're willing to see all sides of ourselves and we're willing to see the, quote unquote, flaws or detriments in our partner who we ultimately always create some fantasy or like pedestal around to then see that crumble, which going back to the father wound can be so representative of our relationship with our father or our mother as we grow up, right? We think they're the heroes. It's amazing.
That's
and
really
then
profound.
We recognize, oh my gosh, there's all these ways in which they've actually hurt me, not necessarily intentionally, but they actually maybe didn't show up for me here, didn't show up for me there. And then we project that onto our partners like, well, then you have to.
Yes.
You have to.
Yes.
So we're constantly in these confines of how do I make sure everything around me feels okay so I can finally feel okay? And when we can realize that we don't need everything to be okay or exactly how we want it, then we're free.
Yes.
And so that's a huge piece of
You're like, so that's what I do.
Casual,
just cash,
and some texting tips here and there.
Just a little Scorpio energy. Just like, that's that.
Yeah. So my work really is, there's 3 different ways that people work with me. One is in my private coaching, which is really like you and I together. We're in this, You're in my pocket. We're doing it. And then I also just opened a beautiful new space, which you have so wonderfully mentored me in setting up the structure behind. And I'm so excited about it.
I'm so excited.
And this is Next Level Love League, which is a container for men and women to really come in to be able to experience these moments and get coached through them in real time.
Yes.
Because how much of the time are we listening to these podcasts? We're consuming content. And we're like, oh, that makes sense. And then we get on a date and our whole body freezes.
Yes.
And we don't know how to process it. We don't know how to move through it. And so I wanted to create a space that wasn't as intentionally exclusive as my private coaching for people who really want to have that. And with the benefit of you're going to be with other people also doing this work and also other men and women.
Yes.
And so the long-term vision for it is really to have this wonderful, beautiful place where you all can speak the same language. You're all not expecting perfection, but you're all like the cat's meow of the people out there. I don't know why
you're like, if I have anything to do with it, you will be the cat's meow.
You'll all be fashionable and diplomatic.
And there's a reason I wanted to ask you about this because, and I know I've said this to you before in our work together. I remember saying, I think I said this to you like a couple months ago where I was like, Emily, we have to remember that you are so vulnerably asking people to work on a deeply vulnerable space of their life, which is their relationship to other people and love and feeling safe in vulnerability. And I'm doing that in the space of money. So it's like, we're literally working in these, I don't know that I want to call them taboo because I don't see them that way, but they can be vulnerable.
Highly charged.
Highly charged, a lot of emotions. And something that I love about your work and that it's been so beautiful to go through the journey that I've had with my work and continue to have is really creating spaces, whether it's in like a one-to-one capacity or in a group setting where you have safe, intentional space to do the work. You have accountability that calls you into depth because that's another reason I was excited to have you on, because it's not like you're just like, text her this, text him this. Like, it's like people just I remember talking to someone once, it was a well-meaning person in my life, but they were like, well, put this on your dating profile and do this. And like, because obviously there were some things that they understood, but I go, yeah, but what about when XYZ, there's no embodiment? And yeah, you've caught someone into getting a date with you, but then it's like,
how insecure do you feel now?
Yeah. And just like it's like, but truthfully, it's like being in integrity of being like, who am I really? And I think that this is such a Capricorn thing I'm about to say, but it's just like, I think to really experience fulfillment in areas that challenge us, we need to put in work and we need to put in work over time. And the work is always worth it. What do you see as like maybe even just some wins from people who, obviously I've also had the privilege of working with someone you work with who I won't give it away, but maybe you'll share her story. But it's just like, what have you seen some wins and like some beautiful outcomes of people who've been willing to go into the depth of the work? And I want to emphasize the word depth, Emily, because just how I teach money is literally how you teach relationships, where it's like, there's intention. There's not just like left braining it, winging it. It's literally like being in your core embodiment around something that has challenged you.
I think that's beautiful and so synchronistic. So of course I was like, hey, you need to mentor me. I will talk about the client you're mentioning because her story is so beautiful, but it's something as, I want to say small, but it's not small at all. It was the most significant moment of his entire journey. I had a client just last week go, I keep wondering why I have all of these women like that I go on dates with feel like they're guarded and closed off. And is it me? Am I doing something wrong? Is it where I live? And through our work, there was a discovery that he recognized he doesn't trust women.
Wow.
So of course he's attracting women who don't trust men because we are what we attract. And it's such a beautiful breakthrough to then recognize, okay, this isn't a hopeless thing for me. And this also doesn't mean that I'm broken or that I'm wrong. This is actually a win. This is a great thing, because when we have that awareness and we see that gap, we can actually do something about it. And, yes, of course, it would be so much easier to think that you could just say the right thing and do the right thing, and all of a sudden these people are going to crack open and you're going to find your perfect person. That would be fantastic, but that's not how it works. And just like you said, if you put something on your profile or you try to show up a certain way, you feel out of integrity. Mm-hmm. And when you're a person of integrity who's looking for another person of integrity, it just doesn't work. And you feel that disconnect in your side, and you're like, I'm going to have to pretend like this doesn't feel good. And it feels like you're consistently hiding something. Mm-hmm. And the people who are okay with that already feel like they have something to hide. Mm. And it's usually this feeling that they're not good enough or there's something wrong with them. So it doesn't feel like a new feeling. It feels like, okay, well, I already feel like this anyways. I might as well get the person and white knuckle through it. So having a realization like this just set him up to actually be able to attract a woman, after struggling for so many decades and not knowing why.
Wow.
And of course,
and I know your Scorpio stellium placements just rocked right through to that question. Like your ability to be like, this is going to sound really intense and sensual, but it's like having so much 8th house energy, you have very like penetrating questions. Like it's literally like, there's no fluffy duffy here. It's literally like,
and you wonder why I was single for so long. Why men were like running.
Literally,
I didn't realize I was doing that in my dating life before I became a coach, but
it's so amazing, because it's just like, I see you when you mentor, and even questions you'll like ask me. It's just like, so you feel so seen to just be honest. Mm-hmm. And the only way I think we can really shift is through that honesty.
Absolutely. And I will be the first one to celebrate that honesty. Mm-hmm. That's the beautiful part of being human, is something's going to be there. Back to Mike before I get to the other client. But I remember we had started dating, and, he's a storyteller. He is that Italian stallion who has a story. He has the charisma. And I'm like, what's underneath that? What's underneath that? And I remember he went to this like workshop for a weekend, and he called me, and I could tell he was kind of nervous. And he started opening up about what he had discovered in this workshop. And the first thing I said was, oh, thank God. And he's like, what? I was like, thank you for sharing that with me. That's amazing. Like, you're aware of this. Because if somebody's not even aware of what their shadow is, that's more of a red flag to me than somebody who is able to be honest and open and vulnerable, because that means we have something that we can actually connect on a human level with. And there's awareness there. There's humility there. And I think so much of the time we try to make ourselves perfect, and then we attract people who are also expecting perfect and hiding certain things. And we wonder why we feel so disconnected. Yes. So being able to own that and recognize that it's a strength and it's something that can bring you closer to somebody, not by dumping it on them or by making them into your coach or your therapist, but by simply sharing in the human experience. It's one of our core values that has made us such a strong couple and best friends at the end of the day. Like, there's no hiding. He knows everything about me. Like, there's nothing that he does not know. And, I saw this in my other client who you mentioned, who, is preparing to get married this fall. And she came to me with this disclaimer that she would send to men on the dating apps about what she had been through, how many times she'd been divorced, some of her health history. And I looked at that disclaimer and I told her, it's got to go. Because you are immediately trying to disqualify yourself. Right? It's one thing to open up and share in the way that Mike shared with me, not in order to go, is this okay? Like, are you okay with this? But to actually connect and share. And when we're treating our really personal experiences with somebody as, do you want this or not? We're actually not honoring that part of ourselves. And so it's actually more important for us to be discerning about who we tell and when. Because when you're just matching with somebody online, you don't know who that person is. You don't know that they're a safe space to share that with. But of course, if you start seeing somebody and you notice in the first couple of dates, oh, I see this moving forward, and these are important things to talk about. Now we can frame it in a way that actually feels empowering for us and connecting for them. And so she was able to do this and stop feeling like she had to be with men who also had some type of disclaimer, right? Because when we feel like we have a disclaimer, we're like, well, I'll get almost the entire package, but it's kind of good if he has this problem or this problem, or he's not really paying attention to me, because then he's not going to see what I don't want him to see. We can put the mirror on that problem instead. And so we end up subconsciously, this isn't necessarily conscious when we're doing this, but we subconsciously call in people who have that disclaimer so we don't feel like we're the messed up one.
Absolutely.
And so she was able to heal that within herself, and in turn got this man who she doesn't have a disclaimer for.
Yes. Wow, babes. I don't want this conversation to end. I literally think we need a part 2, and we will have a part 2. A question that I've been asking all of my guests is, what is a message that your future self has for you right now?
Let it happen. And have fun.
I love that for you.
Have fun.
I love that for you.
Yes.
What does let it happen mean to you?
I see it all unfolding the way that it's meant to. And I'm the type of person to go all in on something and put all of my effort toward it, almost to a detriment. And I saw that in my dating life. And, you know, I can experience that in my business as well, because it means so much to me. And I see so clearly the impact that what I've created is going to have on people, and just wanting all the people inside of it all right now, because I know that it's going to transform the way that so many people connect with each other and have that same fulfillment that I've experienced. But letting it happen is really about, you know, more of that allowance and also credit of knowing that it's there and it's all unfolding, and I get to experience it. I don't need to rush through this moment to try to get to the next one. I get to actually have fun and experience this part, because as I've experienced in my life time and time again, I look back and I'm like, whoa, why were you in a hurry? Why were you in a rush? It's all happening.
It's all happening.
And what if you had just let it happen? And that doesn't mean passivity. It doesn't mean, you know, sitting back and going, okay, it's coming. But to have that patience with things. And I'm in a season where it's very apparent that without patience, I actually don't get what I want.
Wow. My love, this has been such an honor. I just adore you, respect you so much. I'm so grateful to have you in my life. Thank you for this gorgeous conversation. I literally
we didn't even get to the coaching.
You coached me. What are you talking about?
There's a moment.
I feel like I got coached. I didn't want to
no, it's beautiful how it unfolded.
No, I think it's perfect. And honestly, I feel like you did mentor me perfectly.
Good.
And that's just,
I just don't want the listener to feel like they missed out.
No, babe, they got it. And also, I just feel like the gift of what it is that you're doing, and I feel like I mentioned this a few times, is just that safety. Because like, as I mentioned, this is such an area of my life that has felt so vulnerable for me. And it's so funny how, you know, the universe just like plopped you right into so gracefully into my life, just for me to really have this whole new expansive awareness. And, you know, just to have such a beautiful sister in the process. So thank you for coming today. And thank you for this beautiful conversation. Love you tons.
Love you. And thank you so much for having me.